Hello, friends. My name is Doug Hawkins, and I'm an elder law attorney here in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm glad you found the video, and I hope that this helps you. If you are in search for information to help a loved one get qualified for Medicaid, that's what we're going to be talking about today. How do we qualify a loved one and maximize the savings of assets and or resources so that we don't have to spend everything down before we qualify for Medicaid. Now, I'm going to be talking both about a couple, which is a husband and wife, as well as for someone who may be single, because I never know what the circumstances may be whenever we are talking with a potential client. So I'm going to give you information here on both. And of course, the design is to help give you some guidance, but at the same time, if you wish to reach out to me, then I want you to do so. You can reach my office here at area code 859-687-9462. Again, that's 687-9462. 859-687-9462. And I'll be sharing that telephone number with you throughout this recording so that if you decide, yes, I need to reach out to Doug and talk to him about my mom and dad or about my particular circumstances, it may be a husband or a wife that may be looking for this information. So whatever the case is, I'm glad you found this video and that I hope that it is helpful. The first thing that we're going to discuss is exactly what is Medicaid planning. What do we mean when we say that we're going to be planning to qualify for Medicaid? Well, the short answer to that is we're just looking to save as much in resources as we possibly can. You may already know that there is such a thing as a spin down provision for Medicaid qualification. And there are a lot of terms that are thrown around, like the 5-year look back, or the nursing home can take my mom or dad's home. And so there are a number of things that may be in circulation as far as conversations that people have had in respect to what they think that they may know about Medicaid and the rules regarding Medicaid. One of the great myths that someone may not realize is that even though a loved one may have already gone into a nursing home, and you may be currently privately paying for the services being rendered by the nursing home, there still are things that we can do in preparation for the time that a loved one may need Medicaid services. And oftentimes, it's not a matter of if we wind up on Medicaid when someone goes into a care situation. It's oftentimes a matter of how broke will they be when they get there. And so our intent is to help you to salvage as much as we possibly can. And really the first thing to begin to understand about Medicaid is that there are countable and then there are exempt assets. Now there are two primary things that we're going to be dealing with whenever we talk about Medicaid. One of them is the asset limits that may or may not be allowed. And the second is the income limit. So there are two things that we really need to bear in mind. The asset limits, both the minimum and the maximum, as well as the income limits. So there's only a certain amount of income that Medicaid will allow you to have before you have to set up what is in general referred to as a Miller's Trust, or here more particularly is called a Qualified Income Trust, or a QIT. So let's first of all talk about the resources or the assets. Now, basically what Medicaid does is they take all of the resources that a family has, and it's like they pile them in the middle of the table. They sort out what is exempt from what is countable. They then take the countable assets, divide them in half, and if it's within the range that Medicaid allows as a minimum up to a maximum amount of a little more than $120,000, the minimum amount is just a little bit over $24,000, 24,180 to be more precise. So let's say that someone visits my office, and let's say that they have a total amount of countable assets of $250,000. Well, what Medicaid is going to do is take all of those resources, divide them in half. That means that it would be 125. We're making the math easy. It'd be 125 for both the husband and the wife. So one of them has gone into a care situation. We call that an institutionalized spouse. The other is the community spouse. So the community spouse is going to be able to keep the maximum of $120,900. So the total amount that that family would have to spend down would roughly be right around $129,000 before they would be able to qualify to receive Medicaid benefits. So again, the way that we got to that number, take all the countable assets, divide them in half, and there's a maximum amount that the community spouse is able to keep, a little more than $120,000, and so the rest has to be spent down to that amount. Now, the minimum amount that they are able to receive. So let's say that someone only has about $40,000. The minimum amount, if you divide that in half, is only $20,000. So the minimum amount is $24,180. So that means that you would be able to take $24,180 out of that $40,000, and then what remains would have to be spent down before the institutionalized spouse could qualify for Medicaid. So you can see that these are some fairly dramatic requirements that could potentially leave the community spouse in dire straits. And so what we are looking to do is for those that do not have other resources. Now, let me do say as a caveat that I'm not about putting those that have the resources to pay for long-term care or their expenses to put them on Medicaid, because that bill is going to have to be paid by your children and grandchildren, by my children and grandchildren. So I believe that we have to be very responsible when we help people make these choices. But for those that have limited means, that are facing the inevitable of going into the nursing home, then certainly I want to use what knowledge that I have to help people to qualify here so that we can protect particularly the community spouse. Now, if someone is single, then there's only a certain amount that we have more limitations, is what I'm trying to say. We have limitations on what we are able to do to help preserve any assets. Now, someone may ask, well, why would we even be interested in preserving any assets? And the answer to that question is, for the community spouse, because they may have a number of years left to live. And if they don't have help in protecting some of their assets, they may be very limited in what they have available for them going forward. But the second thing is, for a single person, if they do nothing to help preserve any of their assets, they may be in a facility where they have privately paid, spent down their assets, and then once they get on Medicaid, they have no other resources. And let's say that while they're in care, that either the facility decides that they're no longer going to accept Medicaid payments, or something happens that they lose some of their Medicaid beds. Well, it's not beyond the realm of possibilities that someone have to be relocated. And if you have spent all of your resources so that you don't have anything that remains so that you could potentially private pay for a time, then you may be limited as to your options and your choices. And what we want to do is give you as many options as we possibly can when you think about going into such a care facility or in that position where you are needing Medicaid. So we're going to be talking primarily about the couple, but things that we do can also apply to the single. So again, what we're looking to do, which the most that a single person is able to have is $2,000. And the income limits, as I've referred to, are $2,205. So if someone receives Social Security, a pension, or the required distributions, and they're above that $2,200 limit, then we have to involve that qualified income trust, as I've already referred to. Now, going back to a couple. If a couple comes to me, what we're going to do is begin to identify what is countable and what is not. And then we're going to begin to look to create a strategy that will help us begin to protect and shelter some of what otherwise would have had to have been spent down. Now, when we say accountable asset, what do we mean exactly? Well, we mean all of the savings and cash. So if someone has a brokerage account, I'm not referring to an IRA because here in Kentucky, an IRA is an exempt resource, but I'm referring to their cash, savings, what's in a checking. I am referring to what may be in a investment account in a brokerage. I am referring to what may be held inside of an annuity. I am referring to the cash value of a life insurance policy. So any of the particular accounts and or resources that could be converted into cash is going to be a countable asset. And we're going to take all of that money and we're going to compute a total amount, and then we're going to divide it in half. And half is going to be assigned to the community spouse, and then half is going to be assigned to the institutionalized spouse. And so what we have to do is we have to creatively and effectively begin to convert what otherwise would have been countable so that it is exempt. Well, you may ask, well, what is an exempt resource? Well, it would be things like a house. Now, not for a single person, but for a married couple, it would be a house. For both a single and a community spouse, for both a couple rather and a single individual, you could have a car. All of your personal household items or personal effects are also exempt. And here in Kentucky, a retirement account like an IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, or whatever the case may be, is also exempt. The only caveat is that we have to begin withdrawing from those accounts and begin to count some of those assets, begin to count that rather as income. So that's going to be on the income side of the ledger when we do our computation as to what that person, the community spouse or the couple is able to keep versus what the individual there is able to keep. So that being said, we're going to begin to sort out and identify what is countable versus what is not. And then we're going to begin to look to convert as much as what is countable into what is not. Another thing that is exempt is like an irrevocable burial trust or a prepaid funeral arrangement. So there are a number of things that we're going to do preliminarily to begin to spin down the resources so that we can begin to qualify for the Medicaid paying the nursing home deal. Now, whenever we have covered here what Medicaid planning is, a reason why we do Medicaid planning, and exactly the objective, which again is to convert the countable into the exempt. We've talked about your minimum and your maximum allowances. Now, what we also need to refer to is the community spouse, their minimum monthly maintenance needs allowance, or their MMMNA, their minimum monthly maintenance needs allowance, which the maximum amount that a community spouse is able to retain is without an exception to that would roughly be $2,030. So you can see that there is really a great danger and going in unprepared for these Medicaid rules. Now, if you're viewing this video and you know of someone that is needing care, there are things that you can do. And that's why I want to encourage you that if you're looking for professional guidance, to reach out to my office. I'm an elder law attorney, and my telephone number is 859-687-9462. Again, that number is area code 859-687-9462. 859-687-9462. And if you'll call the office and ask to schedule a time, you and I will begin to visit. We'll have a free consultation so we can begin to identify what you need exactly. And for that, we will begin to see what we can do to help you save some of your resources as you're looking to begin to apply for Medicaid. Well, I hope that gives you a good framework and a good idea as to what we're looking to do and how we're looking to accomplish it. Again, if you have specific questions, then call my office, 859-687-9462. Look for other videos in the future that will help you to better understand VA benefits, as well as contrasting VA benefits with Medicaid benefits. So there are more resources that we're going to be looking to provide to help you find the answers and the solution that you may be looking for.